Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, and joining me today, I've got two very special guests, Miriam Lynch and Lieutenant Ken Rowland of Diversity in Aquatics. Miriam, Ken, how are you guys?
Hello.
Hi, doing great.
We're doing swimmingly well.
Let's get a little background first. Miriam, I'd like to start with you. You are the Chief Executive Officer at Diversity in Aquatics. Can you tell me just a little bit about your background in aquatics and how you got involved with Diversity in Aquatics?
Yeah, so my aquatic journey is a little bit different. I learned to swim in Saudi Arabia. My dad is military. I grew up a military brat. And from then on, my career path I really credit my parents to getting me involved in swimming because my mother's oldest brother actually drowned. And instead of using it as a fear, she used it to empower us to make sure that we knew how to swim in my family. So both my sister and I were avid swimmers. We started off with Learn to Swim, and then everywhere I traveled, you joined a swim team. That was your way to connect to the community automatically. I had the fortunate opportunity. We moved here to Washington, D.C., and I got to swim with Coach Pete Morgan, infamous Pete Morgan, who Olympic coach, Ed Moses, and that group, and instilled a lot into me during that swimming journey, as well as being able to swim with groups like Pinecrest and with Jim Ellis, who's also on our board for Diversity in Aquatics during that, because just in that swimming world, just having chances to travel and swim with some greats like that. Later on, I went to Howard University and swam at Howard University. It is the last HBCU Division I swim and dive program, and swam all 4 years there. And actually, the funny thing is that once that finished, I thought I was kind of done with the swimming world. I went into business as a consultant. And through that pathway, I learned a lot about business and really saw there was a intersection between business and what we could do in this aquatic sphere. And had a chance, actually, what happened is there was a drowning here in DC. And I was like, wait, why are we not helping a community to heal and to learn all the opportunities that are available in aquatics? So I came back home and partnered with my old swim club, NCAP, Pete, and his group, as well as Potomac Valley Swimming, and partnered with DC Parks and Rec, and did a water safety festival. And in that water safety festival, we had over 150 people from the community of Deanwood show up for the opening of the pool to educate about the opportunities in aquatics, from scuba divers, triathletes, and more. And with the partnership with Potomac Valley as an LSC with a community with DC Parks and Rec. Through that's what really opened my doors to Diversity in Aquatics, because the network that I was able to tap into came from it. Dr. Sean Anderson and Jason Jackson started Diversity in Aquatics as a network for exactly that reason, to connect all of us from around the country to be able to do great work in our communities, to do best practices, to have a number of access to resources. And that was what I tapped into create this water safety festival. And from there, starting to learn more about aquatics and learning more from people like Ken Rowland, even more from people like Lee Pitts, these huge giants that were doing it from the very beginning and teaching and pouring into me what needed to be done, the work that we needed to continue. And so with the help of them, we have a board that has helped Diversity in Aquatics grow into the organization that it is, based on those principles of what it started from Sean and Jason, that it was a network to create save lives, but also to create opportunities in aquatics. And we've been able to go 10 plus years now on that journey. I've transferred from the business world. I'm a full-time teacher for Fairfax County, and I run Diversity in Aquatics with an awesome board of 9 people who are all engaged and are passionate about saving lives and also creating those opportunities. We have over 2,000 members worldwide in about 50 some odd countries. And it's amazing to hear the stories of our membership, which helps to inspire me every day, to hear what they're doing, to hear what all these different resources that are available and uniting them and making sure that everybody has access. That's our biggest thing, is that we want to create access. We want to eliminate those barriers so that we can create those opportunities and change the stats that we currently see in the swimming community.
So I've so many different directions I want to go into. So it sounds like a really good cause. You guys have been going 10 plus years strong. First of all, let's break down some of those numbers, some of those stats. Right off the top, what are numbers that you tell people to kind of get their attention, get them interested, and to realize how staggering this is?
Yeah, so we know what the stats are currently is that there are great disparities that affect African American, Hispanic, Latino communities greater than the current stats that are out there about drowning. Drowning is highly preventable, but affects African American, Hispanic communities. Drowning affects it 5 times, 6 times more likely. Who it affects, especially as an educator, my lens is for school-age children, it is even more so, especially for our 11 and 12 African American boys, who it affects 10 times more. Are more at risk for drowning than any other age group or racial group. And so those are the stats, and what we're trying to do is curb the drowning disparity, trying to save lives. But, as Ken, he's infamous in saying, going from cradle to career. And that's how we go about it, is that there's so many opportunities. When we save a life, when we create awareness, getting kids, families into Learn to Swim, but also educating about those opportunities, we can change those stats. Because currently, as you said earlier, it's 1.5 is the participation rate of those who self-identify as African American in USA Swimming. And then when you look across the other NGBs or national governing bodies, it's even less. So, and there's a lot of opportunities there. There's scholarship opportunities, career opportunities, and more.
Yeah. So Ken, let's pull you into this conversation. Again, can you share a little bit about your background in aquatics with us and how you came to be involved with Diversity in Aquatics?
Well, thank you, Coleman. It's just a plum-pleasing pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. You're very gracious in your invitation. And I want you to know that I was trained old school wise. At the age of 2, my uncle was in charge of our local swimming pool. He was the supervisor at the swimming pool, and my whole family is a swimming family. I come from a swimming family, and at the age of 2, he threw me in the water. He said, "Boy, you better swim and kick your feet and move your arms," and I made it to the wall, and I've been swimming ever since. So swimming is an integral part of my life and what I do. It's swimming that really has been a guidepost for me. I in November of 1980, I was in a bad automobile accident, and I went through a near-death experience, and I saw the light and everything else, and basically it told me that I was supposed to teach people life-saving skills. So I came back, and I had to get my body right. I was in the hospital for 9 months. I wasn't pregnant, but I was in the hospital for 9 months, and my face was reconstructed. They put everything back together, and I would say 50% of my face now is metal. It's supported by metal. But I had to learn how to walk, talk, and do everything all over again. And I did that by walking down the street to the local pool that I grew up in, and I got my motor skills back right. And eventually I became a lifeguard, and I became a a CPR instructor because my heart stopped. I went through ventricular fibrillation. And I just dedicated my life just refocused. I'm a musician, and I've been on tour with the Temptations and a lot of other people. And but when this near death came, I refocused my life onto teaching people life-saving skills. So that was my mission. So I became a lifeguard. I became a lifeguard instructor. I became a water safety instructor. I became a CPR instructor. And I said, well, I just started on this path of aquatics and helping people and becoming an ocean lifeguard, which is a challenge in itself. My coach was the first African American on a white beach patrol on the East Coast. His name was Robert Payne. And I became, using that as an impetus, as a role model, I became the first African American in charge of a white beach patrol. So therefore I was a lifeguard lieutenant. And then I became an instructor trainer in a lot of different areas and started my own company. I became CEO of CPR, etc. And we started with onesie twosies and minimum 10 and hundreds, and now we're teaching thousands. So we're like one of the number one authorized providers or licensed training providers of the American Red Cross. So we're doing very well with our company, and we've taught quite a few people. I started a program called Swim Central, where we've taught over 650,000 children how to swim in the school day for free. And that's one of the reasons why I was given an award by the American Red Cross, as well as the International Swimming Hall of Fame. And so I'm a renowned person. I'm an expert witness. And when it comes to aquatics, I just try to make a difference one stroke at a time.
And so obviously you are enmeshed in aquatics. How did you come to be on the board at Diversity in Aquatics?
Well, at first, one of the founders, Sean, he reached out to me because I just happened to find it, just doing some searching online and found this organization called Diversity in Aquatics. And basically I joined, and he reached out to me, and he said that they had some presentations that they would like to come down and share with some of my constituents. And I was in charge of the city of Fort Lauderdale. They had 8 swimming pools, and so I invited Sean down and got to know him, and we had a fish fry, and we do things a little differently in the Black community when it comes to the pools. We had a fish fry and music and everything else, and I had him talk about swimming as far as the Navy and everything else too, how we can actually get more people involved to become special interest swimmers and divers and things like that with the Navy. And we started just a friendship, and then he, along with Lee Pitts and we talked about this diversity in aquatics, and he asked both of us to become on the board to act as advisors, and so 10 years later, we've done amazing things, reaching out all over the world with International Water Safety Day, bringing life skills around the world to children all over the class, in the classrooms, as well as many other things, having water safety festivals and having conventions. And we just all pulled all of our resources together, and we just came together in this great organization called Diversity in Aquatics. And 10 years later, we have this prolific organization that has reached so many people, and we really try to make a difference in everybody's life when it comes to aquatics.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam, anything to add?
No, yeah, exactly that. I mean, we, for us, to be able to reach 1 million each year with International Water Safety Day, because that's where it starts, as Ken said, and what he's been able to do through Swim Central, it starts also in the classroom. So drowning is the number 2 unintentional cause of death. And we know motor vehicles are number one, poison is number three, but somehow those two are the ones that are addressed in the classroom, but drowning sometimes gets skipped. You know, teachers with, you know, and doing health education and covering public health, it goes, the notion is sometimes, oh, if I'm away from it, I'll be safe. And so what we try to do with Diversity in Aquatics as a collaborative unit is that we want to get into the classrooms. We want to talk about, we don't want to always talk about it as a fear tactic, like don't drown, but also as an opportunity tactic. Once you learn to swim, that it opens up the world of possibilities. And I'm just so proud of each of our members and our board for setting that direction for us. But being able to reach that many people each year with our partners, such as the American Red Cross and a number of other organizations to get that messaging out there.
Yeah. And so you guys have mentioned you have a number of ways to get your messaging out there. I unfortunately, how I came across Diversity in Aquatics was from a situation that happened in Fort Lauderdale very recently, within the past month, you know, where now is G a member?
Yes.
Yes.
So where a member of Diversity in Aquatics was, you know, asked to leave a pool in Fort Lauderdale, essentially for being Black.
Yeah.
Can you guys elaborate a little bit on that situation and give me a rundown of kind of the reaction and how Diversity in Aquatics was able to turn that into a positive, into an opportunity for education?
Yeah, so I will. We got the call from G on Sunday evening. Diversity in Aquatics has a Masters and Triathlon team in South Florida. So we partner with U.S. Masters and U.S. Triathlon to run it. And our coach, our head, is Thaddeus Gamery. He's done such an awesome job about bringing a matrix of things to address fear and create those opportunities down in South Florida for adults and for youth to engage in aquatics. So he runs that every week with a number of volunteers that are also members of Diversity in Aquatics. And one of the members is G, that comes weekly on a regular basis down there with a number of other members, Nikki and Masai, her son. So to continue on, one of the biggest things is that we've been talking about is that during COVID is to find your place of peace, to continue, if opportunities still arise, go to the swimming pool. And that's exactly what G was doing with Masai, her son, and another fellow member, Nikki. So they went to Carter Park and just to enjoy the water, to have a little bit of normalcy. And that time got disrupted by a white woman who created an atmosphere that was unnecessary at the pool. And so, you know, for us, we were told of the story that Sunday night, and immediately Thaddeus got us all together, and we developed a plan with Ken and a number of people, G included, Nikki and more, to address this and work on a restorative community approach because through this matter. So, and I'll let Ken talk more about that too.
Well, the good thing is that is exactly the right word, the restorative justice of swimming. For thousands of years, people of color were the greatest swimmers on the planet. It was a lifestyle. This is what we did. We swam everywhere. We swam all the time. It was great. Then along came this thing called slavery, and they brought those Native African Americans over here to the United States. And the reason why, too, that they brought them over, because at first you had the Native Americans, the Indians, that were great swimmers as well. So swimming was a part of their life as well, their lifestyle. But they were captured and they were forced to try to go down and get some of the booty, some of the pearls and things, as far as some of the wealth of this land. They were conscripted to go dive down and get pearls and things out of oysters. And so they had a problem with the Native Americans in that the Native Americans did not like being enslaved, and they would rather kill themselves than be enslaved. And so they brought over Africans then to basically kind of replace them. And we had a very rich tradition of swimming. But the problem with swimming is that if a slave knows how to swim, that he can get away. So they had to get rid of that swimming tradition that came. So for hundreds of years, that's been kind of erased out of our culture. I am very fortunate in that I came from a swimming family. My family always swam. Like I said, my uncle was the second lifeguard on the White Beach Patrol. And so he was in charge of the swimming pool. So we have a prolific experience when it comes to aquatics in that particular pool that G and Masai went to. And so we have this great swim team there that pool was built in response to the International Swimming Hall of Fame pool. It was built in response to give people of color on the other side of the tracks a swimming pool that they could go into. And so there was a great deal of tradition that had followed there for lots of years. The pool was built in the early 50s. And so, the small story is that Masai became one of my clients. He came and he enrolled into a lifeguard class, and his swimming needed some remediation, and I encouraged him. And he also got involved with the Diversity in Aquatics and Thaddeus Gamery with the master swimming. And I told him that he needed to work on his swimming strokes to become more proficient at it. He needed to do long, slow distance. And one of the places that they sought out just happened to be this pool that I grew up in. And this pool, like I said, has a prolific history of blocks in swimming. We had the Sunland Park. The pool was called Sunland Park. The Sunland Park Seahorses. And in that time, we had like a Chitlin circuit of separate but equal south when it came into the swimming arena. And so there were black swimming teams all throughout South Florida that we competed against. And that swimming team there at Carter was the most prolific swimming team in South Florida. They were undefeated. And that's my legacy, my family, and everything else. So I was highly upset when I heard about this incident of this lady calling the police on these two people swimming in the pool, which is a pool that's traditionally has been very good as far as teaching people how to swim and promoting competitive swimming and everything else. Because there is a redevelopment over at the International Swimming Hall of Fame, so their program moved over to the inner city. And one of those, they came over and they started using the pool, and they kind of seemed as if that pool was theirs, and that's how they approached it. And so this lady, Lainey, is the lady that I'm talking about, made sure that she made her opinion known that she didn't want these people swimming in the water with her, and forced the lifeguard, threatened to have the lifeguard fired, all this sort of stuff if they didn't call the police to get these black folk removed from the pool. Let me say this: no one should have the police called on them just for swimming in the water, for swimming. I mean, that's just ridiculous. No one should have the police call on them and be removed from the pool because they're swimming in the water with you and you don't like the color of it. So that was the impetus behind the swim in, and we got the whole community behind it. And we're just trying to go to the restorative aspect of it to restore the justice of black and brown people around the world when it comes to education and knowledge of the water.
Right.
So can you tell me a little bit about that swim-in? You know, what was the turnout like? What was the reception like? I mean, again, it sounds like you're taking a pretty hurtful incident and turning it into something positive.
Well, you want to say how it started there, Miriam?
Yeah. So for us, that's what we approach aquatics with, a positive, to create a relationship, right? So we know that in order to move the needle forward, it takes community building, community consensus. And that's exactly what we did. So one of the first steps was through Thaddeus, was contacting Fort Lauderdale, the city, and informing them of us and what we'd like to do at the pool, and also involving G and Nikki and Masai into the healing process of going back to, because that's the event is very traumatic. We've seen this summer that there have been number of incidences that where Black and brown people going to the pool has been questioned. And that creates a traumatic event where people don't want to go back. And we wanted G and Nikki to know that they were supported and that let's go now and create a positive relationship, not only for them too, but also for the community, because that incident created friction that created ripples into the community. Like, wait, there's people coming and telling me I can't go to my own community pool. And so that was part of the matrix of work that we did, was connecting the swim community, the community that Carter Park was into, along with diversity in aquatics and the resources that we had to create this restorative justice swim-in. And from that was what the swim-in was on that following Sunday. We were able to quickly mobilize, and I give credit to our membership down there who all worked to make sure U.S. Masters swimmers knew, triathletes knew, and more about this, and that we were actively working on and continue to work on in making sure that everybody has that positive. We can turn this incident to create awareness of the history, as Ken explained, the history of the community and there is so much. First Black female head coach, her family was present and being able to be down there, who grew up at the pool. We heard so many stories from the community, like, I learned to swim here, I was connected here, and it turned out to be, because the atmosphere that was created, a reunion of sorts and healing altogether, stemming from something that happened so tragic. And from that, I've heard from G and Thaddeus and Masai and Nikki that they've been able to return to the pool, understanding what that incident helped to do and create that bridge towards a more positive side.
There are so many more folks, and you so eloquently put that, but there are so many more folks that are now venturing to show that Black people do swim. And,
right.
That's a common myth that, hey, big bones, all this other stuff. And we can go into a whole lot about all of that. But Black people have, like I said, a very rich history of swimming. I mean, that's why we wanted to make sure that we have this restorative justice in this. Whereas you are aware of your history, you're aware that you were some of the greatest swimmers on the planet. Right here in this particular neighborhood, we have some of the greatest swimmers around, really, period, that in the neighborhood, right there at that pool. So that tradition of swimming, we wanted to show that the community does swim, that this particular segment of the population does swim. And not only that, we've been having programming there at that pool that proliferated this and started these things. My whole upbringing, and the reason why I started this model with Swim Central, where we've taught well over 650,000 people, the model came from there. That's where I learned the cradle to create a career, actually. And that's what we were implementing there at that pool. And we wanted to make sure that everybody knew that kind of things was going on. We have greater enrollment as far as police officers, firefighters, now because we have this prolific swimming program that branches out and helps people as far as jobs, as far as education, as far as everything. There's a laundry list of maybe of people from the 60s all the way up to today that have really shown how that pool has impacted them in a positive manner, and they've gone on to greater things in business, greater things as far as helping people. They had better grades in school, all this stuff. So we just wanted to make sure that we rallied the whole world around swimming, and especially no one should have the police called on while swimming all blind.
I couldn't agree more. And from your accounts, it sounds like a beautiful event. You know, when you get a community together like that, and you're able to hear about everyone's history, you know, the good and the bad, it allows you to heal, and it allows you to grow and learn. And that it sounds amazing. And that's so cool, you guys, that you were able to do that and have it be such a success. We're down to about 5 minutes, and so I want to get this message out as much as we can. Diversity in Aquatics. You can visit them at diversityinaquatics.org. You know, they've got I'm looking at the governing board right now. You've got Lieutenant Ken Rowland, who's joining us now. You've got Jim Ellis, the prolific head coach of PDR in Philadelphia. You've got Maritza McClendon, once Maritza Correa, 2004 Olympic silver medalist, world champion. So there, you know, you've got a lot of history in the sport and a lot of great educators. So what I want to know is that if people visit diversityinaquatics.org, what are a few things you guys have to offer? You know, you go to the home website and there's a lot. It looks like there's so many resources. Take me through just a few of the highlights and what you can get from being a member or just visiting the website.
From our website, you get perspective on really what we are trying to address. We understand that in order to increase participation and dismiss the and also close in and curb the disparities, it starts with some work beforehand. Like this incident sends ripple effects in messaging to communities like, oh, I'm not welcome here. Well, what we're trying to do is dismiss those stereotypes and also address those barriers so that we can get into the learn to swim. And that's the model of what we've been able to take. We are an action-based organization. We are one that, as you see from the swim in, we go and we make sure we address these things. A part of our big thing, for our memberships, we have every year a convention. This year we're partnering with AOAP, the Association of Aquatic Professionals, in doing a convention so that you can go to both AOAP and Diversity in Aquatics convention and start to take action in your community. That's what we are creating is action-based organization and understanding of what really needs to happen as a multi-sectoral approach towards addressing the drowning disparities and creating those opportunities. So that's what you'll find on our webpage. That's what you get as part of a member, is that education piece, but also the way to take action in your own community. And plus access to amazing people, as you mentioned, plus others I like to mention who's helped us to build. Arthur Lopez, who infamous, amazing individual who started Nadar Por Vida, who's been able to make big impacts with Hispanic Latino populations through his program. And also Lee Pitts, who very influential and amazing instructor for Learn to Swim, but also opportunities in aquatics. So it's access to people like that, access to members from all over the world. Come to our convention. We'd love to have you there. Learn, network. Let's learn together. We are 100% volunteer. Every dollar we get, we put back into the communities to do events such as the swim in, increasing education for water safety, and doing and supporting other programs that are in our aquatic sphere. So we're not just swimming, we're also rowing, scuba diving, all of that. We are all those things as a part of our organization.
Well, Miriam, Ken, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on. diversityinaquatics.org. Check out the website. There's so many resources in building our aquatic community, making it a more inclusive place and making it a safer and happier place for everyone. Again, Miriam, Ken, thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. We call upon all groups to support people against this racist attitude as far as we need to have safe places in swimming pools and in schools and local communities. So we call everybody to stand up against these injustices in our communities.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcasts on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.